Hey, hello everyone. Watching now, I believe there are 394 of you watching. First question from Michael Ryan Music. I expect you guys would be getting ready to watch Italy versus Turkey. We are Michael Ryan Music, but we thought before we did that we would celebrate reaching 1 million subscribers, which we did earlier on today. We were hoping to do a live stream at the time of that occurring, but it happened in the morning and caught us all by surprise, and we weren't here. But I'm Joe. I'm joined, of course, here by Seb.
Hello, Joe.
Who hadn't muted his laptop.
He hadn't muted his laptop. I also had to wake you up to alert you to us creeping towards our 1 million subscriber.
Yeah,
we had a late night. We thought maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But
I was asleep.
You got excited, though.
What are you going to do?
You did. Yeah.
And also, Alex Stewart is here.
Hello.
And that's all. That's all you'll get from Alex Stewart. That's good to know, isn't it? Okay. Well, anyway, we'll just be on here for 30 minutes or so. We're going to answer some of your questions. I hope if you want to ask a question, post it in the live chat. And Seb, hopefully, and videographer Don, who you can't see, will be paying attention to those. We also posted something in the community channel earlier to get a few softballs to get us started. And here's one from Vladimir Pudding. Vladimir Pudding says, do you have other jobs in sports media? How do you keep up with the multi-working thing? We don't, Vladimir. This is our job. Seb, can you explain why that's true?
Yeah, so it's... well, I used to have other jobs, and it was a nightmare. So the day that we all got to do Tifo and only Tifo was a blessing. Are you asking me to describe how we make money or how I survive? Or are you asking me to kind of provide a budget of my life?
I was just throwing it over to you.
I'm not sure that's a great question.
I could look back at
our business model.
Alex, will you take over from Seb, because he's doing a great job?
Yes, we have to concentrate a lot, so having a second job would be very difficult.
It is very time consuming. I, for instance, spent a good 2.5 hours today watching old tournament footage, which was only kind of tangentially related.
That's the thing, isn't it? Football never stops.
And also, most things pass as work.
Yeah.
So if I'm watching a goal compilation and that sort of somehow becomes me watching a goal compilation involving another player that sort of maybe has relevance to someone in the tournament.
He's been talking for too long, hasn't he?
Let's move on. Work, though.
Let me say in response to the question from Vladimir, multi-working, none of that. Multitasking turns out to be really hard. It's hard to read your questions at the same time as trying to listen to whatever Seb is saying. Ko Chung Wei says, what's the biggest challenge that Tifo faced on its way to reaching 1 million subscribers, Alex?
I can't.
What's the PG one?
Okay, thank you. The biggest challenge was probably just sustaining growth and expanding in a way that was sensible. So not putting so much stuff out that we overstretched ourselves, trying to keep a good blend of different types of video, and also not just kind of, I guess, driving ourselves into the ground a little bit, because when we started out, it was a very small team, wasn't it? There were very few of us, and that's nice punctuation.
Sorry, that was probably it. I forgot to open the champagne at the beginning. Carry on.
So yeah, obviously now that we're part of The Athletic, we've been able to expand, and that has made life a little bit easier. But I think, yes, early days, it was just very frenetic.
What was your biggest challenge in the years past, Seb?
I mean, I coped with your general belligerence, obviously. Hostile working environment. I think actually it probably, following on from what Alex said, is finding the balance between what we're interested in, what other people are interested in, and doing things which were new. And I suppose biggest challenge, although something a fun one, was to stretch our legs a little bit, do a different type of video, things with kind of a reporting edge, more of a journalistic slant, and making sure that we actually broke stories and in the right way. That was fun but challenging.
Have we ever broken a story?
I think that the work we did on the Newcastle Saudi Arabian takeover was kind of journalistic. I think James Montague did provided some new detail to that conversation.
That is true.
It was very, very good. And it was something that pretty much everybody in the company was involved in. So it was very gratifying. Everyone was doing their bit and, produced a great bit of work.
I wasn't. I had nothing to do with that video.
You had nothing to do with it.
You were a friendly face, like when I was struggling
I've
with...
never been a friendly face.
I mean, relatively speaking.
Okay.
I mean, you weren't consoling, but you were there. You were kind of moral background moral
physically
support.
present.
You were around. You were there.
Clap Niran says, how much for Joe to read me a lullaby every night? His voice is so soothing. £1 million. whichever camera is on, £1 million. There we go. Areeb says, your videos are extremely high quality. Thanks, Areeb. That's very kind of you. Can you explain the behind-the-scenes process for making them, as well as how long they take? Alex?
For a tactics video, say, it's probably going to involve a day to a day and a half's worth of research. So that's watching the team, perhaps reading things that other people have written about them, looking into the team's history, that kind of stuff, things that'll be relevant. Then a script is generated. Then we start. I would then work with an illustrator to talk to them about what's been written in that script and the segments that might need tactical elements. And then it goes off to the illustrator, who will work on it for 4 or 5 days, maybe. Obviously, Joe's dulcet tones will be inserted at some juncture, and then it's proofed. And so it's a pretty complicated process. I mean, it goes on for a while.
There's lots of people from the beginning to the end. Harry Bretton Evans says, Seb should be in quarantine. Wrong, Harry. Seb already did his quarantine. Please explain the procedure.
Oh, goodness. So, test to leave Germany at the airport, wait 90 minutes, receive your negative. On leaving Germany, you have to provide evidence of a day 2 and a day 8 test in England. So you arrive.
This is thrilling stuff.
But it's complicated. And actually, it's really hard to know exactly what you're supposed to do.
Sure.
So
I'd stress to say we're also all 2 meters apart right now as well.
We're indeed. And so I've had 3 COVID tests in 2 weeks, and I've done 10 days worth of quarantine, which has been I don't know. I don't have the right vocabulary for that. It's been dull, difficult. It's been isolated.
Okay, you're really bringing the tone down now.
Yeah.
Dre X says, "Where's the Champions League final podcast?" Now, seriously,
this won't go away. This issue.
It really
this
won't go away.
This is a real controversy.
It's over and over again. I've been asked this question. I'm so sorry to Chelsea fans. Fantastic win. We did, Don, our videographer Don, myself and JJ, were in the office late that night. We watched the game. We made a video about it afterwards. We put it out within 90 minutes of the final whistle. And then we had to have a week off, because what you're seeing now, we will be doing this every game day throughout the Euros on the Tifo IRL channel. Incidentally, if you are not subscribed to the Tifo IRL channel, please go and do that. Later on this evening, after the Italy-Turkey game, we'll be doing the very same thing, chatting about the game. And that is 23 of the next 30 days, extremely long days, and we desperately needed a break. So that's why we didn't have one. But I don't think I've ever been asked the same question so many times.
It won't die. This. It's
really
there's another question, and apologies. It was quite a while ago. You were doing a lot of talking, Joe, but it was, who is your favourite Tifo employee and why is it Henry? Which is kind of a prompt to talk about, like, the behind.
Did someone actually ask that?
Someone actually
was
asked
it Henry?
Was it Henry?
I didn't see Henry, but we know he has
Henry,
several burner
wasn't it?
accounts, so we can't discount the fact that it could have been. But it's a good chance to talk about some of the people behind the scenes who.
That's true. Will you do that?
Yeah, well, all of our designers, I think it's fair to say that one of the strengths of Tifo is the fact that all of our designers have different personalities, different senses of humour, and have a kind of different flourish that they use in their videos. And also, if you, depending on what we're doing, so it might be a brief history of video or a tactical piece, and they'll each have their own different approach to conveying the information, which is really interesting, because you've got to, when we write a script, you can't just literally present it as information. You've got to make it interesting, you've got to make it different, you've got to make it compelling. And all of our guys have a kind of different way of going about that, and it's fascinating. And they're always getting better at it. Not to be not to be too sort of buttery about it, but they are.
Sure.
No, they continue to.
Listen, they're behind the scenes for a reason, and that's because I'm the talent. Okay, so let's stop talking about Alice and Henry and Phil and Joe Lally and Craig and Don and Sol and who else?
You're worried that you've forgotten someone.
I really am worried I've forgotten someone.
I mean, you haven't mentioned JJ.
Oh, Ali, of course, yeah, of course. Oh, I did forget someone. God damn it. Anyway, here's a question from. Where was the question? Oh. Big Wild Haggis asks, what's your favourite video that you've done? I like this question, and I want to answer that in 3 different ways, if that's okay. Answer 1 would be the Iraq 2008 video. I really loved that video when we did the story of when they won the Asian Championship. It was written by James Montague, I think. Also written by James Montague was the story of Amir Fahmy, which was relatively recent, Egyptian football revolutionary. We released that this year. And also David Goldblatt's climate change video. That was great.
Fantastic.
Fantastic work from Alice, the designer there too. Really lovely job. Seb, have you got an answer to that one?
I was going to say climate change because we saw how much work Alice put into it. Didn't she have wasn't she ill for about a week after finishing that project?
She had the climate change blues, yeah.
She did have the climate change blues, but it was brilliant, and it was impactful. And I've never seen so much positive attention for Tifo on social media, and it was just so nice to see a worthy cause, a really good piece of work, and that response to it. It was just a really lovely combination.
Yeah, I'm just putting a user in timeout there.
Someone here wants to know exactly how tall you are, Joe.
I'm 6'4".
Oh,
But I'm 6'5" with heels on, and that's why I wear them. Joe, what rank are you on Rocket League? Yes, Dan, Morgan, we're getting to the important questions now. I'm Diamond 2 in 2s, and I think I'm Diamond 1 in 3s, and I don't think I've ranked in 1s, although that is fun, isn't it? Do you deliberately mispronounce simple names whilst getting difficult ones right? From Dan Preston.
Actually, in a way, that's kind of backhanded praise, because we do put a lot of effort into getting the difficult ones right where we can.
Yeah.
Where we can, and we never knowingly get them wrong. Put it that way.
Also, the thing is, right, about that is if I'm reading a script with player names I've never said aloud before or haven't heard said, and I'm unsure, I will definitely look up the pronunciation, and I will try to be as true as possible without putting on an accent, which just seems weird to do that. However, if it's an English or Scottish or Welsh or Irish name, and I just think I know how to say it, that's where the problems come. I'm pretty sure one of the first videos we ever made, I said Jock Stein, I said.
Oh, did you?
I said Jock Stein.
Okay. That's not even really a kind of a David Bowie kind of situation.
No,
you have to you have to get that one right.
Yeah. Why has the style of Tifo's videos changed since joining the Athletic? Alex, you can probably answer that one. It's just because we brought Alice on board and the design team upped its game, right?
Yeah, I think it's expanded our ability to do interesting things. The designers have a bit more time to be innovative. Exactly the kind of storytelling that Seb was talking about. You know, when they receive a script, there's a whole additional creative layer to the way the illustrators interpret that. And because we've got Alice on board now who runs that process, and we've got additional illustrators in Joe and Henry, we're able to spend more time and do a more effective job with that. The type of content itself hasn't changed. We just do it better because we've got more money.
There you go. That's your answer.
Do you know what's a really interesting part of the creative process? It's like I used to write a lot of articles.
I don't know how you would know that.
I know. Well, an unseen part of the creative process is I used to write articles, and if you make a mistake in an article, then you just edit it, or you have an editor edit it, and you correct it. If you make a mistake in a video, we sometimes make mistakes, but we only delete videos if it's a very serious mistake. So you have this pressure when you're writing a video, when you're writing a script, whether it be tactical or historical or news breaking, and there's this sort of, it's not a fear, but it's definitely a pressure.
It's a fear.
It's a fear.
It's a legitimate fear, because there's always somebody who, like, as a tactical thing, you can't watch every single game that team has played.
You failed to mention something.
Right.
That's the comment.
Well, no, it's you didn't remember so and so.
I think you'll find.
No, it's not that I didn't remember them. I just ignored them, or I didn't know about them, or because it's impossible. Like you can't do all of that stuff accurately, and
unless you only watched one team a year.
Unless you only watch one team a year, yeah, and that's pointless and boring.
There's also that temptation when you're, especially I think probably with this historical stuff, is you want to put every single detail in it. When I came over and started kind of writing videos exclusively, I couldn't make anything less than 3,000 words, just because you think this is a test for how much I know, and I want to make sure that I show just how clever I am at every opportunity. And then you have to sort of scale it back and think, right, what are people interested in? What do they need to know? And that's really difficult, because it goes in with the fear of you leave something out, and you know by leaving something out you're going to get you failed to mention.
Well, sometimes it's like I find with the sensible transfer videos, which I love being edited. because
that's a post-watershed edition of this.
Yeah, we've never
conversation.
had, not arguments, I wouldn't say arguments, but there sometimes is just so much that you can put in. and it's very difficult, I think, when you're writing. Yes, okay, writing is a process and it takes time, and research and so on takes time, but it can be quite easy to forget that someone's got to turn all of this into an animated video.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we've done IRL now, is because it gives us the opportunity to be a little bit deeper on some of those things, because otherwise, I mean, I could write sensible transfer videos that lasted a week, and it would be fun for me, but it would not be fun for anybody else.
No, I think also it's really difficult to find that line, though, isn't it? You want to be able to have the right level of discussion and insert the right level of detail, but you have to remember that what's interesting to you. Yeah. Sometimes, I don't know, like. This isn't aimed at you.
What's interesting
Alex
to me
Stewart.
is very often not interesting to other people.
That's it. That's it.
As anyone who knows me well will say.
Here's a question. It's hard to find. There's so many people in the chat. Thanks for all your questions, by the way. The most exciting team to follow for tactical flexibility from Suje. Alex, what do you think?
Is that in the Euros or just generally?
No, he just said generally, but we could answer it in the Euros to be specific to this evening.
Okay, so tactical flexibility in the Euros. International football isn't great for tactical flexibility because teams don't have that much time. The Ukraine have used... Ukraine team, let's be clear about that, have used a lot of different formations. I think they could be really fun and interesting. Russia do some cool stuff with asymmetry as well, so keep an eye out for that.
Someone else say something while I look for the next question.
Alex, do you regret introducing Ibrahim Sangare into sensible transfers?
No, of course he does not. Of course he does not.
Absolutely not.
Ibrahim Sangare is one of our heroes, and he will remain so forever.
On average, how many times a day do you get pelted with that reference?
Somebody references him at least once, and in fact the Football Manager series that I'm doing with Ian McIntosh for The Athletic, where Ian's managing Schalke and I'm managing Stuttgart, Ian went and bought him without knowing who he was in terms of as a Tifo thing, and then said, I've just picked up this midfielder, have you heard of him? And I was furious because I was literally scouting him at that moment to try and buy him.
Here's a question. Carthilar asks, where's the Scottish guy? Well, that's JJ Bull, and JJ's at home right now because in order to try and be sort of extra COVID safe, worst case scenario if there was a sort of infection that ripped through the office here, we're keeping Alex and JJ apart so that they can switch if one of them were to be
You've always got
unfortunately
a house nerd.
Yeah, sure, exactly. So extra precaution, probably unnecessary, but we're going for it anyway. JJ will be here tomorrow and Sunday. And as I said, throughout the tournament, we will be live streaming our podcasts exactly as we're doing now on the Tifo IRL channel. So please go over and subscribe to that channel as well. That would really, really be great for us. And we'll be doing it from roughly 10 p.m. BST, or basically after the final game of the day is finished. We'll go live very quickly after that and chat for an hour or so about the games of that day, perhaps about the games of the next day. That's going to be really exciting. And we'll have Alex and JJ in equal measure. And poor old Seb will be here every day.
Oh, I've got a good question. So Harry Bratton Evans asks, what do you think of Nicolo Zaniolo? And that's really interesting because that's a tragedy, potentially. He was called up, I think I'm right in saying that he was called up by Roberto Mancini to the Italian senior side before he'd even played for Roma. I think I'm right. That might need a fact checking. But
I'm not sure. Certainly he was very accelerated, having been super successful for the under-21s.
Good player, deservedly so, because he's such a good player.
He's a great player. I say he's a great player. we don't know anymore, but he could play. He could definitely play as an 8. He could play as a 10. He could play almost as a kind of wide
forward,
midfielder.
maybe,
Yeah, exactly.
With that left foot,
just
that'd be
an
lovely.
incredibly flexible, an interesting technical player. But I don't know what will happen to him.
I got to think about it because obviously, for those who don't know, he had 2 very, very serious knee injuries. And I was looking at what's likely to be the Italian team later. And I thought, if you added him into that, I think I'd be more excited about watching Italy than any other team in this competition. I'm pretty excited about watching Italy anyway, but he would just be, he has that kind of expressive luxury playmaker feel and a left foot, and who doesn't love a left foot? So that would have been a lot of fun.
Alex TR asks, how was Tifo found?
How was it found?
Yeah, this is the bit where you say nice things about me.
Oh, yes. Well, Joe had a vision.
Oh, yes, I did.
We could make him blush here.
I don't know.
We
We
could
could make Joe blush.
Well, because let's be fair, like, you know, we were doing something entirely different, and Joe, off his own back, decided to pursue something else.
Joe basically went rogue, didn't
But
he?
we wouldn't be here if he hadn't. He is literally just swigging champagne from a bottle now. But you know, you're not part of this bit of the conversation. And started doing something which became popular, which has developed into our identity.
By something, I think, let's be emphatic, making videos.
Making videos.
You're saying
videos.
I've helped to create your identity? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I wouldn't put it that way. In a few,
I've shaped you as a man.
years, maybe. Like I certainly have new social habits as a result of knowing you. I'd say that's probably fair.
Sorry, can you just expand on that?
Well, so for instance, yesterday we were transporting audio equipment to the studio, and we were
Right.
waiting for a taxi. And I was holding one of the microphone arms that you can see on the desk in front of me. Joe and I were mid conversation. I swung around to make a point emphatically, and accidentally kind of speared a child in the shoulder. And
You did do that.
I felt really guilty because he looked at me, burst into tears, and ran away.
Right.
And I just felt horrible about it. And I said to Joe, as this group of children and their parents were leaving, do you think I should go over and apologise? And Joe said, absolutely not.
Said never apologise for anything if you don't need
This
to.
is the person that he's turned me into.
The child ran into the
did.
mic arm.
I didn't see him. He was running down the street, and we were
Yeah.
stationary, and he just ran into it. It wasn't like I was jousting.
Right.
He caused his own. But
I mean, he's a child.
I mean, I feel like that's a memory that he'll have forever now.
Yeah.
The bad man that, you know.
Okay.
Musa C says, hello, Joe Devine. Hello, Musa C. We also have a question from Indian Outlook. Do you see your channel becoming obsolete in 4 or 5 years' time?
Obsolete.
Depends who asks me the question, I suppose. Lots of people asking who the narrator is. That's me. Are you planning any more videos on Indian football, Seb?
We have had some thoughts, so we might do, but obviously we're going to focus mainly on the Euros for the next month, and then we're going straight into sensible transfers afterwards, and then we're going to diversify a little bit. So potentially watch this space.
Does this one is from earlier from San? Does having a football media job take away from the joy of watching and following the sport? How has your relationship with football changed since making it your job, Alex?
I've never really liked football a great deal. So, no, I suppose I will go and watch Winchester City FC, my local non-league team, when they play in person.
Yes, you will.
Back in August. I think it'll start again in August. And that's fun. I think in terms of watching actual professional football, yes, I think the constant need to be aware of stuff and switched on and conversant and on social media and stuff does take away some of the pleasure.
Big time.
But at the same time, having this sort of job does afford you access to conversations with people who also know a lot about football or know more about aspects of other bits of football, and that can be very rewarding. So
That is one of the things that makes the job easy as hell, is working for the Athletic.
Right, yeah,
Being able to talk to anyone.
Because if you're doing an Italian video, you can message James Horncastle, or if you're doing a Germany video, you can message Rafa Honigstein, and these are really good people at the top of their game. And that's certainly, I think before we were part of the Athletic, that aspect was certainly harder.
I was really surprised by how positive that experience was. I wasn't sure. Like, I didn't really, until you're able to do that, reach out and get expertise from different people in different areas. I didn't realize how forthcoming people would be with that and how willing to give up their time. It's been a really lovely surprise, actually. Really good. Someone has just called me Seb Stabberford Blore.
Stabberford?
Yeah, that's not going to catch.
That
There's
is your name.
too many syllables in that, I'm afraid. I can't even say it.
Here's a question. Do all of you guys work at the same location? No, we do not. We all live in different places. I live in the city of London. Alex lives in the town of Winchester.
Winchester is a city.
A city of Winchester.
Does it have a cathedral?
Goodness me.
What do you mean,
Do
does
you know
it
what?
have a
It's the most
cathedral?
cliched response to that conversation
Has
of all
the
time, isn't it?
longest
Everyone always
nave.
says that. Does it have a cathedral? Is that what makes it a city? Seb lives in Hamburg.
I do in northern Germany. Yes, I do.
In northern Germany, hence why he quarantined when he arrived in the UK. Here's a question from earlier from Nur89. I won't read the questions all the way through, but the essence of it is if we all of us had a fight, who would be the last person standing, including JJ? Now, the first thing we should say is we do not condone violence, but if we did have a fight, I do think I would win.
You are...
I could sit on any one of you and win.
Yeah, you have a size advantage.
I could sit on all three of you at once.
I don't know. I reckon JJ's quite scrappy.
Yeah.
You know, just... I don't know why.
If you're from Aberdeen Oil Town, you've got to be scrappy. Is that how it works in the
to
oil
survive
town?
the Badlands of Aberdeen.
I mean,
Absolutely.
Without putting too fine a point on it, I'd be very confident I've had more fights than all of you put together.
Sure, but you've
also
learned
had
to fight.
training, so
yeah, but he
maybe-
had like professional training. They don't train you to kill in the police, do they? They train you to disarm and stuff.
They probably,
Sure.
they probably train you to
It's all
kind of
reasonable.
stop someone sitting on you. Like I'm pretty sure he could fend you off.
I think I'd be fine.
No.
Yeah, that's it.
I'd
Yeah.
definitely win. Tom Madigan, what are your dream cars? Can't drive, Tom. So can you drive, Seb?
No.
Can't drive. You've got a car.
I'd like an old Land Rover, just like one of those.
Do you want to buy
old
Sergio
ones.
Aguero's one? I think that's on eBay.
Is that still on eBay?
I don't know. I haven't checked today.
Okay.
Did
So
you go to school for journalism from SILAS? Nope.
No, just started doing it.
No, likewise. No, I did do student journalism while I was doing my normal degree at university, though.
Do you guys see yourselves in the next, or where do you guys see yourselves in 5 years from now? I don't know, probably in the same seat, I imagine.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah.
Pedro Chagas says, I miss you doing videos of South American football. We'll try to do more, Pedro.
Hey, so at the moment, obviously, we do know that the Copa America is running simultaneously with the Euros, and sleep permitting, we will try and engage with it as much as possible. Forgive us if we don't, because, well, we're going to finish late every night and then have to come to work quite early the next morning. So
Yeah.
we'll do our best, promise.
Charles Hobbs says, what did you study at university? English literature, Charles. Seb? Oh, you didn't go to uni, did you? Because you are a self-starter.
I did 6 weeks, and then I went to get employment.
Where did you go for 6 weeks?
Westminster.
Oh, that's where I went.
Yeah.
Look at that. It's not as good as it sounds, though, people. It's
Regent
actually...
Street campus, Westminster.
That's where I was.
Yeah. Needed jobs, needed experience, needed a CV.
Stuck it out, obviously, I did. So,
Good for you.
Just saying.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Alex, where did you go to university? Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Alex was a cop. More on that, please, from Me So Cool. Keep it child-friendly, Alex, but you were a cop.
Yeah, I did 6 years in the Met, and then I got thoroughly disillusioned because it's a broken organisation. And so I left.
There we go.
Flirted with not making that cheery.
I could have done so much worse.
To be fair, yes. absolutely.
Percivalco asks, how long did it take for your channel to take off? I don't really remember.
The first video that did really well was like, I would say November maybe of 2017, which was the Conte back through video.
Yeah.
But there wasn't sustained success. I'm so sorry for saying sustained success because I know my S's really aggravate people on this.
Let's go.
So I said it again. But I would say the World Cup in 2018 was where it really started to take off.
That's when the podcast started to take off for sure as well.
Yeah. Well, I think they feed into each other, don't they?
I mean, what was nice about it was that, like, basically from the beginning, in comparison to what else we were releasing on the channel, it was obviously better. The viewing figures, I mean. And so we felt, I think from the beginning, that there was something there. But Alex is right. The first video was it the first one that you wrote, the Conte one? Or maybe it was one of the early ones.
It was definitely one of the early ones I wrote, yeah.
It blew up sort of much bigger than any of our previous videos. And that felt like
That was amazing. Because that was really before I was involved, and I remember I was in Cyprus with my now wife, then, and I was watching from afar the amount of content that was coming out. It was amazing because it was just you two and Philippe daily.
Yeah.
You know, just it was the turnaround was.
I used to
absolutely-
make the videos, Sam.
I know. When we
They were
had the
terrible.
hand, do you remember?
In fact, Anerda asks, why are your animations so bad? They're not, but they used to be, and that's because I used to do them. How did you all meet? Well, I can tell you, Seb and I met through work as colleagues, but Alex and I met when we did, I had an old podcast about football before Tifo, and I invited Alex, who I'd met on Twitter, to come to my house to be on the podcast with some of my friends, including Phil and Alice, who work for Tifo now as designers. And Alex arrived about 4 minutes early. Don't know if I've told you this, Seb.
No, I've not heard
And
this story.
he stood outside my house on the opposite side of the road. I saw him through the window, and he stood there, still as a ghost, staring at his watch, waiting for the exact right time to ring the doorbell. So he arrived at precisely the moment that he said he was going to arrive, and it was
That's
one of the creepiest things I've ever
Quite
seen.
chilling. That is the opening scene of some kind of thriller. What were you thinking? What did you think the worst case scenario of
This
you being
guy's
early was
such a
going to be?
weirdo.
I was thinking that I had been told to get there for 7 o'clock,
And then it would be rude to be early.
and that it would be rude to be
4
early.
minutes. It wasn't like you were
But
10 minutes
why,
early.
why didn't you wait out of sight, like around a corner? Because
It wasn't even the waiting. It was the way that he was standing. It was just you didn't move. You were motionless. It was, anyway, we're friends now. But I thought I just remember that moment because
It's very funny.
It sticks out in my mind. You know, when you were walking around late at night and you think, maybe I'm in danger here. It was one of those feelings that I had. That's not true. He's a wizard, says Gavin C. Who's a wizard? What do you think about Manchester City fans? There you go. They're all football fans. Who cares? Bryson Hayes. Wouldn't expect anything else. I'm just reading things now. I'm just reading things.
a lot of
So-
questions about Tifo basketball. Is
Oh
it
yeah,
ever
that
coming back?
happens. I don't know is the answer. I wouldn't rule it out, but
I think some of the stuff was really good.
some of it was good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I liked it. We just ran out of time and people and capacity, and everyone was tired, so we had to stop doing it. But we did like it, so it's possible that we could bring it back at some point in the future. Matt C asks, where does Alex get all of his shirts?
Well, t-shirts I get from eBay, charity shops, 99 Vintage in Winchester, football shirts, likewise charity shops, and the famous website for football shirts and eBay. It's just about shopping around, really.
Dave Lathrop asks, why are you so biased? I saw him earlier asking a question about the Champions League final podcast that we didn't do. So sorry, Dave. So sorry about that. It's clearly really upset you. And next year, I'm going to learn from my mistake because I never, ever want this to happen ever again. And you know what? I think Chelsea are a great team, and we'll talk about them loads next year because
It
obviously
really
they'll be
was
in
just
the...
because we didn't have a podcast that week.
We're
It was
broken.
We didn't have
We're broken
we
people.
did not have a sort of a production meeting where we thought, what would be funny is
Yeah.
if we just didn't cover it. We honestly didn't do that. We would never do that. We needed the break. We had the Euros coming up. We knew it was going to be intense, and you'll see how intense it is within the next month.
I also think it's pretty reasonable to say that although we do all support/follow teams, if you actually take Tifo across our whole output, we're not biased. And it's not even that we make a big effort not to be. It's just not the way that we would ever approach stuff. So, I think
have
it's very
opinions that might be
easy if
wrong.
you...
But it's not the same as
Yeah,
sort of thinking, I dislike this team.
You've got loads of those.
I do, yes. Many. Sadly, yeah.
Face reveal soon, ? Says Ibrahim.
I mean, no,
Hello.
that is actually joke. I mean, is he expecting a kind of a Mission Impossible style?
Do you think that's a Sangare reference?
Maybe. It's
Maybe.
just gonna...
Where's JJ, says Escan. As I said before, he'll be coming tomorrow, and we'll be live streaming tomorrow every day, every game day on Tifo IRL. Please subscribe to Tifo IRL. There we go. Do you have a plan for Tifo NFL? No, we don't. Do you understand Ollie's tactics? No, we don't. What do you guys think the future of Manchester United will be in the coming years? Will they really be a title contender?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah.
Answer is yes.
Hey, I saw a question go past about who amongst us.
Joe only reads dumb questions. I'm sorry, Sam. They move so quickly. It's hard to see the long ones.
It's really difficult to talk and to watch questions.
To multitask.
Somebody asks whether any of us have pro licenses. I don't know if he has it yet, but JJ is on that path. JJ does have coaching licenses, and actually, maybe that's something we can talk about because JJ will be in tomorrow, so we can quiz him about his qualifications. That would be fun.
Swagato says, when are we going to get video podcasts? You're getting one now.
This is right
and as
now.
I said,
Literally
every
right
day during the every game day during the Euros, there will be these podcasts. This is a podcast. It's happening to you right now. Is another question. Literally every episode, Spurs and Southampton are mentioned. Not biased. Okay?
No, but let's attack that a little bit.
You want to attack it?
I want to attack it because it's not biased. It's that you don't.
I am trying to find the good questions,
But
by
you
the way.
don't-
It moves very quickly.
You don't end up in football unless you are a football fan. Your entry point into working in any sort of football media position, whether it be football writer, journalist, reporter, whatever, is you go to the football as a young guy and you learn to love the game and you learn to love a team. So just because you have an allegiance, you don't come through the door and say, right, from now on I shall be entirely neutral, because you got to love the game to do it.
I'd say that we actually don't mention Southampton very much, and Spurs last season had one of the more
Don't
up
say it.
and down, intriguing.
What was the up bit of that?
Were you good against? No, you weren't.
We had it.
No, that was
It
bad.
felt like there was about a month's worth of fun.
Well, you had
Beat Manchester United.
Harry
That was
Kane
good.
got the most goals and most assists in the Premier
He did
League,
indeed.
both,
But
which is
we-
quite impressive.
We are honest about the teams we follow. That's fair enough. We don't. I am as critical of Tottenham as I am of any other team.
Here's a question related to that from Practice earlier on. How do you remain objective with your work as a sport? In sport, as a passionate fan in football, it's hard to be objective.
You learn to. So when you cover football from a press box, one of the main things, big no, is no celebrating. So over time, after enough games, if you've reported on your own team, you learn you celebrate internally, but you've got to keep the poker face. So I remember covering a North London derby at White Hart Lane, the very last North London derby at White Hart Lane, and goals going in, important things happening, stadium celebrating above you, because the press box used to be right on the touchline, and you just have to sit there and take it and just sort of nonchalantly type away and continue your match piece. And you just learn. It's like turning off a switch. It's difficult, and it feels a little bit like you're sort of hemorrhaging inside, because it's you're repressing something. But it was you learn to do it. It's like anything.
Daniel Mayen asks, how does it feel becoming the second funniest guy after JJ joined?
Wow. Chiseling away at that
I've
confidence.
got to say, it's pretty brave of you to have read that out.
That's, yeah.
Well done.
I'm looking for another question.
Have you ever heard his dressing down of JJ for trying to be funny on the first podcast?
Yes.
Yeah. Didn't like that.
No.
Did not
Barry
like that.
Wayne wants to know what your Tesco meal deal choice is. I can answer that one. Ask that one, sorry.
Yeah. You should answer it too.
It's difficult to answer things when you're looking for questions, but I would say I would have a cheese and pickle sandwich with some ready salted crisps and a bottle of still water.
I'm more of a kind of like a Waitrose ready meal guy, I guess. Probably.
I really dislike the word meal
Deal.
and the word deal
Okay.
together, particularly in proximity. There are certain phrases that I can't.
Oh, here's one before it goes past. Sefa asks, do you guys think Turkey will high press Italy tonight? They don't usually high press bigger teams, but it is the Euros.
No, I think they're going to be fearful. I think they'll try and counter. I think they'll sit a little bit deep because Italy are expansive and attacking and bold, and anything other than a defeat will be a really good result for Turkey. So I think they'll play accordingly.
Yeah, I think, yes, definitely this.
I mean, I'm kind of spent on reading the questions now. I can't do it anymore. So unless
well,
you've seen one, Seb.
Ethan is sending us love from South Africa. That's very kind.
Oh, love back to South Africa.
Someone's given a shout out to Waitrose. I mean, kind of cool for that. We've done all the little bits about how Tifo started. That's cool. Do we have a favourite moment, actually? That's a good question.
A favourite moment.
Favourite moment? I know that's kind of not really in your wheelhouse.
Sorry, a favourite moment of what?
Well, not life. I mean, we can do that in the sort of late night podcast, but just at Tifo. Happiest moment, best memory, favourite video, funniest podcast. Greatest interaction with Tifo staff member.
Anything.
Anything good.
Anything.
Just something mildly fun that you think back, that was good.
You met Ian Wright.
Yeah, there you go.
That was amazing.
That was
If
nice.
that's not the best, I mean, that is the best.
What a lovely man he is as well.
This is very true.
Don't show off, Seb. Just because I didn't say you met him, you don't need to let everyone know you met him as
but I
well.
wanted to crowbar myself in.
You met him?
No. But he is a very nice
See,
man.
he tried to make it sound like he'd met him, didn't he?
I did.
That's what he was doing.
Yeah.
So actually, the
You
story
haven't
behind
met
that
him.
is I didn't go to that meeting, but I sent a DM to him saying I'm really sorry for not being
And he
able to
never
go.
replied.
And he replied in a very, very nice way. He's a lovely man.
He is a very nice man. Okay, well, that's probably the end, isn't it? Unless you have a favourite moment.
This has been good. The last couple of days, the last 24 hours.
45 minutes. Has
No,
been-
because we yesterday we came in, we were celebrating our 1 million subscribers, and for the first time in ages, a lot of us got to just spend time together. And in a few cases, we actually met. So I hadn't met Ali, I hadn't met JJ until a couple of days ago. I'd never met Henry before, which is really weird because I feel like I know Henry very well. And we all went out to the pub and just had a really nice time. And it was, after the last year and a half, it was most welcome. So that might be my favourite Tifo memory.
All right, does anyone else want to say anything before we
You haven't had
end?
a favourite Tifo memory. You can't just dodge that.
My favourite memory was coming up with a great idea that's been really successful. That was my favourite memory. And then going to my family and saying, look how good I am, family. Yeah, respect me.
How's that going?
I think they like me. I don't
Yeah,
know. I mean, I don't know about the
I'm not
respect
sure,
thing. It's,
maybe. I mean-
if I stopped shouting it at them, I think they'd be more
That might make a
appeasing.
difference.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks to the 1,000 or so people that watched our live stream. That's nice. We're good 45 minutes, wasn't it? We will be back later this evening, actually, in about 3 hours' time to chat about the Turkey-Italy game after it's happened. And as I said at the beginning, we will be doing this every game day during the Euros. Sometimes Alex will be here, sometimes JJ will be here, sometimes we'll have some other big, exciting guests too. So do tune in. And indeed, if you'd prefer to not look at our faces and just listen to the audio, you can also do that in all the normal places, wherever you download your podcasts. We will be appearing into your earbuds every game day, which is very exciting. So to Alex Stewart, thanking unto you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Sorry, I was miles away.
And Seb Stafford Bloor,
Thank you, Joe
wie
Devine.
heißt du denn?
Not going to bite.
Well,
Never.
we
Willkommen
go.
am besten zum Bahnhof.
No.
that's the end. I can hear the drilling now. So goodbye, farewell, and we'll see you in a few hours on the Tifo IRL YouTube channel. Please.